Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you again so much for our time together. It's Monday morning, the very first Monday morning of 2014, and for many of you, it's the very first day of going back to work after a very long, restful, and maybe not so restful holiday. When you get back to work today, sit down and begin to focus on what things do I need to do first? What is of first priority? Otherwise, you're going to feel very overwhelmed with everything that goes on today. Let me teach you for just a moment out of Genesis chapter 13 and Genesis chapter 14 and try to summarize a very large story in just a few words. In Genesis 13 and Genesis 14, we find the story of Lot separating from Abram after how much times of quarreling and strife between the herdsmen. And we find the story of Abraham risking his life and risking everything he is and everything he has to rescue Lot from the kings of the valley when they attack Sodom and Gomorrah. In the middle of all of this, you're confronted with a truth that we never like to deal with. Relationships that don't belong in our life never bring blessing. They only bring pain. Let me say that again. Relationships that do not belong in our life never bring blessing. They only bring pain. Lot was never supposed to be a part of Abram's life. God said, Abram, you are to leave and leave your family. And he took Lot with him. Now, he may have enjoyed a lot of companionship, and he may have enjoyed having the other young man around, and he may have enjoyed having almost what you would call a surrogate son. He may have enjoyed all of that. But the fruit of that relationship was only pain. And when he looked one day and he realized that everything Lot had, he had given him. Everything Lot knew, he had taught him. And still Lot allowed his herdsmen to quarrel with his herdsmen. And still, when it was time to separate, Lot chose the best part for himself. You're confronted with the truth. People who don't belong in our lives are takers. Relationships that do not belong in our life will always act as parasites and take from us and never bring blessing to us. And then when they get in trouble, they will always look to us to risk everything we have and everything we are to rescue them. And then even when Abram rescued him, he went right back into Sodom and Gomorrah again. Now, brothers and sisters, forgive me, but as you move into 2014, you need to look around at relationships in your life, and you need to realize not all those relationships belong there. There are people that God has brought into your life, and those are people that should be a part of your life. And then there are people in your life that, forgive me, don't belong in your life. There are old friends that have changed, and as I'm often fond of saying, when your friends change, change friends. Sometimes friendship is like a river, and as long as you're walking together, Proverbs says that unless two men agree, they cannot walk together. And as long as you're walking together, you can be friends, but when they begin to go a different direction, you can't join them in that new direction. I would ask you to learn the lesson that Abram learned here. When he got rid of the relationships that didn't belong in his life, God progressed the vision in his life. God expanded the promises in his life. Because the relationships that would have taken everything God was giving him away, those relationships were gone. Did you hear what I just said? These parasitic relationships will take everything that God promises to give us away from us. So God won't progress the vision, God won't expand the vision until these relationships are out of our life. My grandfather told me when I was a very young man, I said, Grandpa, you don't have very many friends. And my grandfather laughed at me and he said, David, when you die, if you have 5 true friends in your life, you will have been very blessed. And I said, oh, Grandpa, I got hundreds of friends. And my grandfather said, no, David, you have hundreds of acquaintances. You have hundreds of people that, as long as it's convenient, they are around you. But he said, true friends are very different. I challenge you today. Look at the relationships in your life. Who belongs there? Who has God brought into your life? Who does not belong there? Remove them from your life. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be ugly. Just move off in a different direction. and watch the blessings of God begin to flow.